Where do you think you are able to find the feminine women these days? And what's the best strategy to find one?
I'll give you like the tactical, shiny answers first.
Here I am, like 10 years later, doing MDMA in the bathroom with a girl.
Terminology for them by women, which is called spiritual fuckboy.
Religious women, they're way better at hiding it.
I'll be honest, we took some mushrooms while we were going up this mountain. So I was having all these crazy downloads and stuff because university and the education system makes it seem like if you believe in God, then you're an idiot.
Nice to see you again, my friend.
It's been a minute. How you been?
Yeah, I'm so good, man. And yourself?
Doing well, man. Doing well. Life's beautiful.
Awesome, bro. So I was just telling the story of how we met. Who was it now? It was Ahmed and I think it's Dayron as well. Two guys mentioned you at both separate times. So I was like, oh shit, this is like some social guy that I should get to meet. And then the first thing we did was like the barbecue, wasn't it?
Yep. When you said, dress nice and smartly, we're going to get some photos for Instagram, and you come shirtless with a tomahawk steak.
Yeah, I messaged him. I was like, oh yeah, we've got a cameraman. Tell it yourself and your girl and stuff. Tell everyone to like really dress nice. We'll take professional pictures. And I was there like shirtless, no shoes on. Like, I clearly didn't get the message. So for the guys who don't know of you, do you have a sort of elevator pitch that you'd introduce yourself with?
Yeah, sure. I think like many of you guys, I got into self-improvement. That was the thing that changed my life. For me, it was actually going to Tony Robbins conferences. I became one of those like seminar junkies. So 4 years in a row I went, and I was just that guy who was just like overly enthusiastic, wanting to just tell everyone about personal development and self-improvement. And I quickly realized that it's much more powerful to act and show and inspire rather than just preach, because why is anyone going to listen to you if you don't have the results to show it? So that was a lesson I learned very quickly. And then, yeah, somewhere along the way, I was working a 9 to 5 doing sales in London, and it was just soul destroying for me. I was good at it. I was a top sales performer, but it just killed my soul. So bearing in mind, this was like nearly 10 years ago. So I went to uni because I didn't know what to do. Did all of that, was on the pathway to become an investment banker because I thought that was the way to financial freedom. Go and work for JP Morgan in London, make some money, work every hour of your life, and maybe retire at 65 with a good life. I got to a bit of a fork in the road when I was at university in my last year. And I basically said, all right, either go and apply for these jobs or I go and just try and make something happen. So back then it was the Ty Lopez Lamborghini days. If you guys remember those days, here in my garage. He was actually one of the guys who actually changed my life because he showed me that you could make money online. And that led me to starting an agency, which I've now done for 8 years. It's crazy. Makes about 50K a month. And that's enabled me to basically live a life of freedom. So I live in Bali at the moment. I moved about 1.5 years ago, and also just give back all of the things I learned along the way, whether it's like business, mindset, spirituality, relationships, just all of these life lessons that I just learned through trial and error mostly, and paying people a lot of money. And now at this stage where I get to give back as well. And yeah, that's what I'm doing with myself. Hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea.
Awesome. And when did you meet Maggie?
We met in September last year. So a little over a year ago. Like the year before last, sorry.
Yeah.
Yes.
2022.
Yeah.
Where were you up to in your journey at that point? What kind of man were you? How much money were you making?
I think I was making like 20K a month or something like that. I'd just come out of a long-term relationship with someone who I thought I would be with forever. I'd already gone through through the masculinity phase. Then I went through a real spiritual phase, which is 2021 is the year I joke and say is when I became a woman, because I went so down the spiritual path and I just became a woman. I lost 10 kilos. I was basically vegan. I didn't lift. I just did yoga.
Yeah.
I was just a woman. All my friends became women. It was just this crazy time. But what going through that period actually did for me is it helped me to actually deeply understand the feminine. because I was feminine.
Mm.
Right. And so I was actually always more of a feminine, slightly feminine guy than a masculine guy. I wasn't naturally this macho dude. Like, I didn't play football. I played like tennis and did martial arts, which I guess is masculine, but just because my dad forced me to do it. And I had Indian parents, so I didn't really have a choice. But you know what that's like. But yeah, but because I went through that period, I knew I wanted like a spiritual woman, somebody who followed God, somebody who had traditional values. So I was able to embody those traits more. And so I was just at a phase in my life where I dated a few women, and I was over I missed out that I did go through a massive hookup culture phase as well. Slept with a lot of women when I was at university. I was basically an atheist at that time, and I was like the most like empty and depressed during that period of life when I look back, because university and the education system makes it seem like if you believe in God, then you're an idiot, because science is their God. And I used to believe that, and I'm ashamed to say that now, but it's the truth. And so when I moved to Bali, I was at a stage where I was just like, I was good, man. I was just focusing on me. I was building. I was getting stronger. I was making more money. I was getting closer to God. I was eating well. I was just doing the right things. And then, yeah, that was when she found me.
Yeah, there's so many things I wanted to say about that, actually. I won't take up too much time because we've had the students submit some questions. I totally agree with the education system makes you an atheist. It was the exact same conditioning we had as well from my side. It was like you were stupid and unintelligent to believe in God. And the other kids, they're telling you in primary school, oh, God doesn't exist, Santa's not real. Some bullshit, like, shut up. Like, and then there I am, like, 10 years later doing MDMA in the bathroom with a girl. Like, thanks. Yeah, no, it's crazy, man. It's crazy how much they will take away from that sort of traditional life. And I'm so glad we're at where we are now, where so many people are pursuing the traditional path. They're pursuing God. They're doing these healthy habits. They're getting more awoke based everything. They're pursuing a business and everything. And I guess your relationship is a reflection of this, because you're both spiritual people. You're very awake but not woke. You're very, I don't even know how to explain you guys, man. I was trying to explain it before. It's rare for me to meet someone who I consider present and loving to the point that I actually want to hang out with them. It's very rare for me to meet anyone like that in real life, and a couple especially as well. And I was very impressed by you guys. You were lovely to be around. You were very clearly like enjoying your life. Like, you were flirting with each other. You were so playful with each other and everything. You took the masculine direction. Like, you've got this, how do you explain it without being gay? Like, you got this badass personality that's quite sexy as well. Like, you take charge of things. You took it here, suggested this restaurant, did this. It's not often that I see that. It's usually I'll see couples who are just bitches, you know what I mean? It's just, oh, what do you want to get to eat today, honey? But yeah, you made a really good impression on me, man. And Maggie did as well. She really did make a good impression on my girl. And so when we interviewed her, we asked her like a bunch of questions, mostly about dating, because that's what the guys are really interested in. What did Ibrahim do to attract you? What kind of man was he? How did he stand out compared to other guys that she might have been interested in? Because you've done really well in attracting a high quality woman like that. So just before we begin with their questions, if there was one piece of advice you would give to that version of yourself, let's say late 2022, open to dates, open to meet an awesome woman, but haven't seen her just yet, one piece of advice that you'd be given to that version of you that's like working hard on business, self-improvement and everything, but now he's like really looking to date someone?
First of all, thank you for those compliments. They don't go unnoticed, bro. And I can say exactly the same thing about you. I can say all the same things about you. So what I'm actually going to say is going to seem less practical right now, but it's what I believe the honest truth is. Focus on your building your self-worth as a man. And there's a lot of things that go into that. It's probably the deepest thing you can ever do. Because the reason why so many men struggle with attracting a woman they really want, it's not because they don't look jacked, or it's because they don't have the right smile, or they don't have the right job. It's because you don't actually believe you're worthy of being with that woman. Because I'm sure all of you can think of guys who have some amazing woman, and they're a piece of shit. But that guy believes he's worthy. And that's fake self-worth. So that's not real self-worth, but it is a version of it. So what I found is honestly, the true changing point for me was when I worked on that self-worth, and I realized that there were so many areas in my life that I was deeply insecure about as a man, which is the most repulsive thing to a woman. And even if you never say a word about it, believe me, they can sense it. Because women are extremely emotionally intelligent. They're so much more intelligent than men in so many ways. We have our strengths as well. They definitely have theirs. So that is honestly the thing I would say. That is the main thing I can say. And obviously there's practical ways to do that through all the things that you say, all the things that a lot of these things that you teach in terms of like self-improvement, going to the gym, working on your business, meditating, all of these things will build it. I guess the practical piece of advice that I will give, which is more like my thing that people come to me for, is to be able to really sit in the discomfort of your deepest fears. And there's a practical way to do that. There's a process that I take people through, which is basically a breathing and mental exercise. I can send it after for anyone into the group just for free, like a step-by-step how to do that. But it's essentially just being able to sit with your deepest fears and emotionally move through them. Because when you're able to do that, these unconscious fears and limitations no longer hold you back. And then that's when you can actually be the truest version of yourself. That's how you actually become confident. Obviously, you build confidence by doing all these external things, but to build that true, unshakable internal confidence that's still there, even if all of those external things go away, you have to truly believe that you are worthy. And I remember, Hamza, when we did the podcast, one of the things that Maggie said that did attract her was presence. And the only way to get to that is by being out of your own head. And what are you like when you're in your head? It's not sunshine and roses, is it? It's negative thoughts. It's, oh, how do I look? What's he thinking about me? Is that person making more money than me? Did that girl look at me weirdly or not? But these are the kind of thoughts that go through the head, right? And so by being able to go internal and actually process these things, it then just results in emptiness, right? And that is the space at which everything in my life, at least, all the good things have been created from. So yeah, that was a bit of like a spiritual tangent, but that's my most truthful answer I can give you.
Yeah, no, I agree with that actually. Insecurity, neediness is so unattractive to women, and like you said, they pick up on that. And that time when you sat next to a girl, or you're in a first date or whatever, or even if you're texting a girl and you've got like these insecure, overthinking thoughts, she's not going to be attracted to you. Like, it comes across even in text. Like, for these guys, like, how many of you motherfuckers, before you're going to send a text to a girl, you go and watch one of my videos first? Go on, let me see, put your hands up and type 1 in the chat. Like, I used to do this shit a few years ago. I'd go like watch a few red pill videos before I'd send like one reply back to a girl, and obviously never end up getting that girl. But it's the girl that you feel totally smooth with, that you feel present with, you feel like you're in the flow state with. Of course, that's the one that you're going to present your best self to. So what you're saying is we want to be in that flow state without these insecure thoughts. And on one aspect, we do the work, we do the self-improvement stuff, we get accomplishments in the real world. But you're saying on top of that, we should be doing certain breathwork practices that can bring you physically into your body instead of being stuck into your mind.
That is how you become a true 1% man, right? There's that whole like how to be a 1% man, like the Andrew Tate stuff. Honestly, a lot of it I agree with. Like, I do agree with like making yourself as strong as possible, making as much money as possible, raising your status, looking the best you could possibly do. All of those things I 100% agree with. But that is only one dimension of it. The other whole side to that no one really talks about is the internal side of things, right? That's like the more effeminate things, like the breath work, like we talked about. But that is how you truly stand out. And so, okay, so like to go back to Maggie, like how did I attract her, right? Well, I'd been put in touch with this girl who wanted some help with something. So what was I doing? I was genuinely just helping this girl. I can't remember. Someone put me in touch with, I was helping her with her business or something. She then knew I was going to Bali. She introduced me to 2 girls who were in Bali, who I became friends with, and then I was just a good guy to them. You know, like I didn't find any of them like sexually attractive, but we just hung out. We had fun, like genuine fun and a good time. And so they would post me on their stories. And that is how Maggie actually found me, because she was best friends with one of those girls. And so she followed me, and then that was how it all started. I then, you know, messaged her, and then the rest was history from that point, right? So you have to like reverse back everything to like, why was I even hanging out with those girls having a fun time in the first place, right? It's because I could truly like relate to them and truly like be present with them, truly play that masculine role without there being just wanting to sleep with them, right? Like, and so that's a pro tip, by the way. If you want to get if there's a girl you like, become friends with her friends. Ideally it happens naturally, but if you want to do it the direct route, I couldn't recommend that more, because women listen to women. Even if their advice is terrible, they'll still listen to a woman over a man 9 out of 10 times, because women trust women more.
It's just social proof, isn't it? Just get a testimonial.
Literally.
Get referrals, man. $100 million leads by Alex Mosey.
Right. And I do lead gen all day, right? I do paid lead gen all day. So we've heard it here. Referrals are better.
So we've got a question from Stefan, and he said, where do you think you are able to find the feminine women these days, and what's the best strategy to find one?
Yeah, I would say, well, there are physical places. So I'll give you those first. I'll give you like the tactical shiny answers first, and then I'll give you like the deeper real answer, right? So we get a mix of both. Dude, I'll go. So give it this Sunday, right? I went to this like yoga thing by myself, and I like doing yoga, right? I was the only man there. Right? So obviously if I was single, that would be fantastic, because there's 50 women and one guy. It's like I could be terrible, but just by putting myself in that situation, I'm probably going to end up dating one of them, right? Just by the odds. So if you go to places where spiritual women hang out, that's honestly the easiest thing. Now, I would say do things that you actually enjoy or that you're curious about, right? So don't just go just for that reason, like actually want to do it. Like, so I'll go to stuff like that. I'll do breath work. There's stuff called like ecstatic dance that I'll go to. These are all things that I'm genuinely like interested in. I don't go to them all the time, but I go like sometimes when I'm sort of feeling it. So those are some like physical places. Anything basically that they would go to, just go there, right? And it's probably not places you're already going to most of the time. So you have to like make a bit of a conscious effort. There's certain things that will exist in every city, no matter where you are. Everywhere's got a yoga studio these days, somewhere, you know, or even if it's in your gym and they do like a yoga class, like the chances are there'll be women there who are more likely to be like spiritual, right?
I'll just butt in quickly. I'll just say in 2022, before I met my girl, I remember saying this to my friend. Me and him would go to the gym together, lift like heavy ass weight, and then go to the yoga. And we genuinely went to the yoga to literally just stretch, because me and him wanted to stretch. We weren't even going for girls. But I remember us constantly saying that the quality of woman you find in just the yoga studio compared to the gym is so different, because in the gym it's awesome and stuff, but there's a lot of vanity and ego involved there. There's a lot of like, you know, modern day bullshit attractiveness. She's going there to grow her glutes because she's got like an OnlyFans or like a Instagram or some bullshit, right? In yoga, there's no like showing it off. Do you know what I mean? It's like she's going there because she's just wholesome as fuck. So we noticed that, at least by appearance, the women there just seemed way more like wholesome, and they really did look like a lot higher class, higher status, more beautiful than like the gym girls that we'd see. It was just something we picked up on it. So I actually really do think yoga studios are good. But I'll give a disclaimer though. Yesterday I was in the gym and I saw the same guy that I see in there all the time, right? So he's like probably 35. You know, just like one of those guys who like just shaped a bit oddly. Like he's shaped like a boy who's just grown into a man. He's got that kind of like desperate energy. I've spoke to him once and he's like, "Oh, did you go to the yoga classes with this one particular teacher? She's fit and everything, right?" And I saw him today. Like he'll often go and cold approach girls, and he goes to the yoga to like be around girls. You don't want to come across as him. I don't know his name, but we'll call him Jeffrey. You want to be going to these places, but you don't want to be that like horny guy who's going to try and get a T boost from like the instructor and try to like speak to the girls there. I saw him yesterday in the gym, and he went up to these like two fitness model-y type of girls who were training there, like, you know, making their little reel or something. And it was just brutal. Like I could see that they weren't interested in him. You know, if you look like at a woman's feet, which way she points her feet shows who she wants to listen to. The moment that he came into the conversations, they literally crossed their legs, both of them, and like they were pointing this way. Like imagine if you are him, they were literally faced like this while speaking to him, and he stayed there for like 5 minutes straight. So that's just an extreme example, but you don't want to end up like this Jeffrey motherfucker, and you want to have it like this wholesomeness where like Ibrahim, for example, he actually likes yoga, he's doing it for the benefit, and so it's like he's in a relationship, he's not pursuing something. But if he was single right now, it would be this authentic vibe. No girl would look at him and think of him as the same way as this man in my yoga class. You just don't want to be seen as that guy because everyone notices, and I just think it's really cringe. It's really bad for your reputation. What do you think about that?
And I see guys like that all the time. There's a lot of guys like that here actually in Bali, and like the women, there's a terminology for them by women which is called spiritual fuckboy. And they're just like pretending, and it's a good strategy, it makes sense, right? But it's like you said, it's so easy to see through. I saw Benjamin just said, I don't think I'd find a Christian woman there though. My girlfriend's Christian, and yeah, she does all of those things. So I would say like one belief that I noticed a lot of people had, and for some reason I just never had this belief, which is why I think I met a lot of like-minded people, is there was this belief that when I started getting into more like God and spirituality in general, they were like, oh, well, like it's hard to find spiritual people. It's hard to find people who are into God. But my belief, just for whatever reason, was, well, everyone's spiritual because everyone has a spirit. That was just my belief from somewhere. And so everyone I met, I could just get into a conversation about it just naturally because I just assumed that was what everyone was like. So that's just a bit of advice to you. You can also go to church as well, right? If you want to meet a Christian woman, like I go to church every Sunday, and there's loads of women there, you know, like, again, more likely if you want a woman who's into God, just go to church. But obviously, like, again, like Hamza said, go for the right reasons. Don't just go to try and hook up with girls.
But sorry, what is that like? You know, this advice of like, okay, you're a godly man, go to church to try and meet women. Do you think that's like good advice, a good place to meet women? Let's say if there's a young Christian here, if he starts going to church every Sunday, he sees girls there, what are they like? Are they, because my perception is like, if I'm honest, I think a lot of those kinds of women can be like closet degenerates, like with Muslims especially. And me and my brother talk about this. The issue is with these like religious women, they're way better at hiding it. Like, you know, like, let's be honest, Western women are like so abrasive that they'll look at you and be like, oh yeah, I love fucking black guys. Like, just they'll just say it to you. So it's like, okay, fair enough, go fuck yourself. Like, but these like Muslim women I've seen, and maybe Christian women, it's like they're used to lying to their parents about the degeneracy shit they do, and so they're really good at then lying to their future boyfriends, acting like a virgin, or, you know, acting really pure, and it turns out she's been like sucking a lot of dick and the guy didn't know. Is that something like you've heard of a lot, or is it maybe this is just some irrational fear that I've got?
I'm sure it exists. I'm sure that's the thing. From my personal experience, that hasn't been the case. Just from girls I've met, whether they're like friends, girlfriends, or just women I've spoken to and just got to know more as friends. So they've just been honest and not really had any reason to lie to me because there's nothing there. But also I haven't really gone as much in a Western country. So I think I could see it being more in a Western country, but I would just say like there's so many different types. At least I can only speak to Christianity because I don't go to mosque as much at all. Although I have been to mosques. It depends where you go. There's like a lot of different types of church, like literally like so many. So I would say like ones that I'll go to, for example, one is called like Hillsong, which is much more of like an uplifting type of vibe. You've got like beautiful singing. People are there with like the right intentions. There's none of that weird like clingy energy where they're trying to like convert you and all this stuff. They're just all there to like lift each other up, and it's beautiful. And there's a few others that I go to that are smaller. So I would say just depends on the church. Like just kind of maybe try a few out. And with the whole religion thing, I used to be really against religion. I will say, like, I only became Christian last year, and the reason I was against it is because I saw, for example, what you just said, like how it can make women, but also just the control that it is used to control populations at the same time. But at the same time, there's no dark without light, and there's no light without dark. So with Christianity or any religion, it's like there's no perfect system. So I more see it as a value system, right? It's better to have a value system than no value system. I was climbing a mountain a few weeks ago, and it was like a 13-hour hike, right? And we were going up this mountain, and it was literally like one of the hardest things I've actually done. And I was okay, I'll be honest, we took some mushrooms while we were going up this mountain, so I was having all these like crazy downloads and stuff. And I thought to myself, and I heard someone say something like this, but I had this feeling of like, I'm going up this mountain, right? And I'm with a group of friends, and we're like, we believe this is the way to the top of the mountain, right? And the metaphor is like, we're going through life. The top of the mountain is like enlightenment, or it's like the end goal, right? That all the things that you want. And we're going up thinking like, this is the way to get to the top because this is the path that we know. You could call that Christianity, but then to the left of you, there's another pathway and other guys walking up it, and they think that's the right way. That's Islam. To the right of you, there's another pathway to the top. That's Judaism. There's another path. That's Buddhism, right? And everyone thinks that this is the way to the top, but in reality, there's many ways to get there. So with religion, I'm open to all religions because as long as they have a value system that's ultimately like making you just a better person in general, fantastic. So I'm not really even married to one, to be honest. My dad's Muslim, my mum's Christian.
Yeah, awesome. Oh yeah, sorry, I interrupted you. You were finishing the question for where do you think you find feminine women?
Yes. So I gave the like tactical side of it, right? So like go to yoga studios, just experiment. What I would say is like, if you're going to actually do those things, go in with, and you've never done it before, or not really that much, just go like, maybe if you're like not that confident, like I'm more of an introverted guy. Like now I'm just at a point where I'm just like, I'll just do whatever. But definitely for most of my life, I was much more introverted, and I would feel like I wouldn't walk into a room and just like go and shake everyone's hand and go and talk to every person. Like I'm more just like reserved. I'll have like 1 to 2 deep conversations. That's just kind of more the type of person that I am. So maybe go with a friend, right? So you can like, and the reason I say go with a friend is because you can then go with the intention of just like having fun and being curious and exploring it, right? If you're an extroverted guy, do that by yourself, go do it by yourself. Perfect. But if you go with that intention to actually just have a good time and with an open mind, then you will like attract people who are similar to that. Particularly if it's your first time, is something endearing about you just owning the fact that you don't know what the heck's going on. And it's actually like quite an inviting energy to have, because it shows you're like carefree. It shows you're not like in your head, because you're just here like having a good sort of like a good time trying it out, you know? So that's that on that side. And then when it comes to how to attract them, from a more like wider perspective, you know, I have a tattoo on my arm. You won't be able to see it here, but it says internal state equals external reality, right? It's like something I always say, which is like you essentially attract what is inside of you. And so I believe like the reason why, like in the past, I had my first ever girlfriend, or besides when I was 12, like after that when I was like 18, my first ever girlfriend, she was like she was like the girl in school who everyone wanted to date. She always had a boyfriend. She was like the hot girl, the model girl. And I was this honestly insecure guy, to be real. But for some reason, she liked me. And I ended up getting with her, and we became boyfriend and girlfriend for like a year and a half. And it was so confusing to me because I didn't understand why she was with me, because I didn't feel worthy of her. And what happened was, after that year and a half, she essentially, I don't know it for a fact, but basically cheated on me. right? And the reason that happened is because, one, she wasn't like really like into spirituality or God or had any of those values, but the main reason was because of myself, because of like I didn't have that self-worth that I come back to, right? I had all these insecurities, which is just so repulsive. So she went to someone else, right? And so now, because now I've worked through those things. But so had Maggie. She'd also worked through a lot of those things. Doesn't mean we're perfect. It doesn't mean we've done it. There's never an end point, but it means we've worked to things to a certain degree, which is a lot more than the previous versions of ourselves had worked through them. It's just like attracts like, right? So it's not the sexy answer, but the true answer is do the inner work, process these things, because when you overcome them, it's like, it's not even a spoken thing. You will just attract people who are like-minded, right? Like the reason you and I got on, Hamza, is because of a lot of those reasons, right? It's just like it's like an energy exchange. We just like it's like a vibe, you might call it. What does that mean? That means vibration, right? You're literally sending out a vibration. And I will say
yourself.
Exactly. And I will say, like, to give a practical thing, being able, like, one of my big intentions for this year is authenticity, is to lean deeper into that, but specifically authenticity online, because I'm very authentic with friends and people who know me, but actually, like, haven't showed all sides of myself, and this year was my intention. And that was one of the things Maggie said she liked about me, is that she could see who I was online to a degree. So I'd say, like, don't be afraid to show who you are. Even if those are like not as cool seeming things, just show who you truly are, right? Because then you'll attract someone who actually like is attracted to you for you, and not a version of yourself that you're trying to portray or trying to put on, or, you know, you're doing some like little pump up pickup thing before like going to the gym or to the bar or whatever, right? If you can truly express yourself authentically, like, it's kind of like you'll repel all the women who don't like that, but the ones who do like that will really, really vibe with it. And it was the same with Maggie. Like, I was attracted to her because I instantly got a sense of who she was through seeing her, even though it was only online first. I instantly got that sense. I said to my friend within 5 seconds, like, I'll marry this woman. Like, within 5 seconds. Like, that sounds ridiculous, and it sounds ridiculous to me even saying it, but that's what happened.
Wow, that's beautiful, bro. Honestly, good for you, man.
Thanks, bro. I appreciate it. And I will say, like, it doesn't mean everything's easy. Like, we've had probably one of the most challenging relationships in 1 year, which it should be a honeymoon phase. It's been rough. Like, it's been difficult because we're both just like, because one thing we did yesterday actually is we went through our values. So I literally wrote down what my values are. I can share some of them if you want. I can say something real quick.
Yeah, sure.
I'll just say some of the top ones, and there's a reason why I think this is honestly a big part of how you do attract like a feminine woman. So the ones I wrote down were trust, respect, growth mindset, God and spirituality, loyalty, wants to raise a family, health, contribution. She added freedom and family into that, both of which I agree with, right? One of them that I'll focus on, just to kind of show the importance of this when it comes to values, is growth mindset, right? I guarantee all of you guys in here have a growth mindset, right? You just wouldn't be here if you didn't have a growth mindset, right? You wouldn't be attracted to Hamza and everything that he stands for. And so if you're dating a woman who does not have a growth mindset, it is impossible that the relationship is going to last long term, because you will just outgrow her, because you will be evolving and she will not. And so you're just going to be it's going to get to a point where you just don't resonate with each other. You might love each other, get along really well, everything might be good, but you're just not going to resonate at a certain point, right? And that's happened to me before. That happened with a previous ex. She just didn't have that same, she was just content. She was lovely. She was great, but she just was content where she was, right? So that's just one example of why values are so important. And so what I'd encourage everyone to do is like actually write down what are your values that are just unquestionable, unbreakable. Like you will not change any of those values for anyone, no matter what. Because then again, you can hold those inside of you, and then when you do meet somebody, you can pretty much tell very quickly whether they have similar values. It doesn't mean like there are secondary values which maybe like you can move on a little bit. It's not like every single one has to be exactly the same, but for the most part they should be. If you're looking for, if we just assume you're looking for someone like long term, maybe someone that you could see as a mother, someone you'd want to settle down with, that's what you want, then this is something I would do. And, you know, a lot of people will say, like, write down what you want in a woman. Like, women do this kind of shit, honestly, more than men. Like, they'll write down what they want in a man and the type of man they want to be. I would say you can do that, but also write down, like, what do you actually want to give to that relationship, right? What are the things that you want to contribute to? Because a relationship, particularly as a man, is not a place to go and get something. It's a place to go and give something and be in service, right? And to me, like, that is the essence of masculinity. It's being in service, right? It's being of value to the people around you, right? It's like being the tribe leader. You're providing the most value. You're being in service to everyone. That is the truest form of masculinity to me. And that's what I'm just at this point, I'm just wired like that. That's just what I look to do every day, is just to be in service. And that's also very attractive to women. Because again, it's like, what does that communicate? You're not needy. You're not as needy if you're trying to just be in service to people, right? Just trying to help people. So yeah, hopefully that answers the question. Let me know if I missed anything.
I love that last point you just made, actually, because I've done a couple of videos recently where I've said, make the document, write down the traits of your future wife, everything. But yeah, I didn't even include what you would want to, the kind of woman you would want to work hard for, because that's such an important point for men. Women are by far like our biggest drivers in life.
Yeah.
And our biggest motivators to work hard and to be productive. It's amazing how much like a woman can motivate you if you allow it, if you allow like this pleasant mindset of giving this energy. You're absolutely right with that, actually. Yeah, you're giving me something to think about as well, bro.
Yeah, because if you're showing up to give, then naturally, what's the woman going to want to do, right? She's going to want to give back to you, naturally. Like Tony Robbins talked, one of the things the first thing that I ever learned from Tony Robbins has always stuck with me is that we have these human needs. I don't know if you guys have like seen this, but essentially there's these 6 human needs, right? There's 4 needs that are the needs of the human, and then there's 2 needs that are like the need of the spirit or like the soul, right? And just real quick, like the 4 human needs that we all have, first of all, a certainty. We need to know, like, okay, we're going to be okay, we're going to have like food on the table tomorrow. But at the same time, we also need uncertainty, aka variety, right? We don't want to do the same thing forever. We want to like try things that are new now and then. Then we also want to be significant in some way, whether that's having a big following, whether that's having the corner office, whatever it is. We all need a level of significance, and we all need love and connection, right? So these are the 4 needs of the personality. But then there's also these 2 needs, which are like the needs of the soul. And those 2 needs are growth and contribution, right? And growth, we've kind of touched on a little bit of like having that growth mindset. That's why it's one of my core, if not my top value. But then there's also that contribution piece. And when I was younger, I always used to struggle with this, because I used to think, well, like, what can I contribute? Because I haven't like built myself into anything yet. Like, one of the things I want to do is like go and build schools, right? Well, if I'm 18, I can't physically do that. I could go and do charity work in Africa and build schools. I did that, but I can't build schools, right? But contribution doesn't mean that. Contribution can mean like offering to do the dishes for your mom with a smile and just chat with her for 5 minutes, and do it from a place of just like actually doing it from love, right? Contribution can just mean like smiling at an old lady on the street because she used to be hot, but now she's 80 and no one smiles at her anymore and gives her attention, right? These kinds of things are, or if you've got a skill set, like giving someone your skill and like helping them with with your like particular, maybe you're good at programming, maybe you're good at editing, maybe you're good at like copywriting, like there's something that you'll be good at. Maybe you're good at maths, right? There's something that you can always give. And so by focusing more on these two factors, the growth and the contribution, I found that it just leads to just a deeply fulfilling life. And when I'm focusing too much on the other ones, I notice like I'm just not a version of myself that I like as much. So I try and focus on those two more.
Yeah, I've had the exact same life experience. It's interesting, like I think we as men, we get so self-censored in our own minds about what we want, particularly from women. So you see that hot girl over there and you can't help but to think about her, to fantasize about her. Basically, me. I'm needy, give it to me, I need it. And obviously that's repulsive, and then you never attract the girl. It's interesting that usually it's when you feel in some ways like better than the girl in whatever way, that's usually when you attract her, because you're not actually thinking it's like me. You're actually thinking you're almost doing her like a service of you speaking to her. Like it's easy to attract, if you're in an autistic metric of 6, it's easy to attract a girl who's a 3 because you feel like you're giving her a gift in whatever way. And so you don't have any anxious thoughts. And usually with that kind of girl, you actually end up having a pretty good relationship, apart from like, overthinking that she's ugly or something. But like you've got this thought that like you're never anxious with her, you don't feel insecure, you're in this like very present, powerful mindset. And it doesn't have to be as shallow as your attractiveness or anything. But if you feel like you have a lot to give the woman, you're naturally not going to come from this place of neediness and scarcity. Problem is, most young men just haven't developed themselves enough. They haven't grown enough to have much to contribute. And so the things they can contribute, so can every other guy. Plus the other guys can give them money as well, can be more powerful, less insecure, everything. So I think you definitely need both. You need the progress and the gifting of your gifts.
That's a really good way of putting it. I just want to say that. Yeah.
Thank you.
And that's where confidence really comes from, right? When you can provide so much for a woman, the kind of life you can give her, like, and not just the financial and that kind of stuff, like also the other stuff we've just talked about. Like, how are you gonna walk around? Like, where are your shoulders gonna be? Like, how are you gonna approach a woman? There's gonna be no need whatsoever. You'll be able to talk to anyone because you know how valuable you are, and it's not coming from an egotistical place. It's coming from a place of actual truth and authenticity. And yeah, I love that, bro. I'm taking notes as well. But yeah, go ahead.
Let's go. Next question from Keegan. When you have a girlfriend, how do you know when your girl is testing you, and how do you pass those tests?
I think we talked about this on the podcast.
Yeah. Like
when I was on the way to do the podcast with you, I had a test from Maggie, which was that we had to get to meet you in like 15 minutes, and it was like a 12 or 13 minute drive, and that was my responsibility as the man to get us there on time, right? That's one of your duties as a man. But she was hungry and wanted food, and I knew that if she didn't eat food, she's not going to be in a good mood for this podcast, and it's going to go terribly. So what do I do in that moment when she's testing me, right? She's testing my masculinity because she knows that it's my response. I'm driving, I need to get us there on time, but she's also hungry and she'll be in a bad mood if she doesn't eat, right? So I'm exaggerating a little bit. She's not that bad, but I'm just making it funny. So I had to find a way and a solution to give her food whilst getting there on time, which in that example was giving her a rice cake with some almond butter while we were on the way, but also doing it from a place where I'm not rushing her. Right, because if I was to say like, oh, just have this food and then we'll go, it failed. You failed as a man, right? Because you also like have to be remain like unshaken by any situation, right? To be able to just fucking, because what does it say? Like if you're getting all flustered about some little example like that, then what is that? She's then thinking, well, how's this guy going to have my children in 10 years time? Right, well, how's he going to deal with our son, when he's getting into trouble? Like, that's literally the stuff she's thinking. So she's literally thinking that kind of stuff. Like, that's what women are like. They're like very like, they dramatize everything, right? We talked about this on the podcast about that specific example. And the funny thing was, is she didn't even know she was doing that. So it was unconscious. And this is the thing with women. Like, I think as men, we think that women are doing these, they sit and scheme together and they're like, right, how am I going to test this guy today? Like they're not doing that. Like most of the time they're just like, sometimes they are, but 80% of the time it's just unconscious. And why are they doing it? Well, if they don't test you, they could be getting with someone who is a loser, who isn't going to be able to protect them, provide for them, give them a good life. So actually, it's like it's their survival mechanism. So that's why women actually do it. And there's nothing wrong with that. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that, right? And so I forget the actual question now. Was it like how to pass the test, or how do you know when they're passing, when they're doing it?
How do you know when your girl is testing you, and how do you pass the test?
Yeah, so I would say, any time, because she's just like challenging you on something, right? She's just going to be like, you're just going to be in a situation where it's like you have to use critical thinking to navigate the problem, or like, she's just going to be challenging you in general. Like, I just call it challenging, right? She's going to be challenging you. And the way to pass it is basically to do what I just said, is to just remain neutral and calm and non-reactive in that situation. And honestly, it's not even about the words you say half the time or what you do. It's just that. It's just showing that you're just like, yeah, I'm good. Like this is going to be fine. She's just looking for reassurance most of the time.
That's powerful. Yeah, remain unchanged by the test. There's a quote in The Way of the Superior Man, which is like, every moment of your life is either a test or a celebration, and even doubly so with your woman. So how do you know that she's testing you, bro? She's testing you. Just assume that she is. You might be in a moment of celebration where you're both like making love or laughing, but the test is coming like a sneak right hook to the face. Just be prepared and ready, and basically have a solid idea of who you are, where you want to get to in life, your values, your beliefs. Have like all of those things set. You know who you are. You know what your goals are. You know what you need to do. You know the kind of man you are. You know the personality you like to have, or that you have. And then assume that there'll be 100 things in the day that she will kind of insinuate that you should change away from those. It can be something as big and as obvious as she says, hey, eat this ice cream, and you know that would break your diet. But it can be subtle things. It's like, a lot of the times I actually feel like tests are like completely non-verbal most of the times. It's just her just moping around the house for a split second while she's like doing something, and that's a test there. Are you just going to continue just checking your phone, or are you going to go up and like pick her up and do something goofy so she gets back into a good mood for like 10 more seconds? It must be annoying to be a girl, honestly. Like, I swear to God, they get bad moods like every 10 seconds. It's just their primal brain just being like, yeah, test them again. Like, I'm fine. Like, I find it amusing after a while, but that must be depressing to be.
Well, yeah, because the reason why men can find it hard, and I used to really struggle with that, is because we assume women should be like us. We assume women should be more rational and more logical, and so we get frustrated. How many people in here get frustrated when women don't act like the way you think, right? Yeah. That was me for so long, bro. And I'll tell you what, the easiest thing to do is just understand women and then just accept that is how women are. If you want a woman who is rational and who's like you, then you're gonna have to become gay, bro. Like, because you're looking for a man, right? And you can have your best friends, but that's the reality of it, right? So when you can just actually accept a woman for how they are, and look, I watched this with my own parents. Like, my dad could just not accept my mum for how she was, and it's just like he expected her to be a different way, and it's like she just wasn't a different way. So they're in turmoil for their whole marriage, right? And so once you do accept it, then it just becomes like funny. It's almost just like, oh, this is kind of cute, more than anything. So yeah, I just wanted to add that.
Yeah, I think it's very valuable. I remember I was on Instagram a while ago, actually, and someone had sent me some post about like some, I don't know, masculine femininity or something. The comments were all saying like, oh, imagine like, being a man and working hard and coming home and your woman is like challenging and testing you. Like, oh, I'd hate that type of relationship. And I'm not surprised that like basically beta males around the world don't want a woman to test them. They basically want like mommy to soothe them and to have like the easiest relationship possible. Like, one of the things I think men need to hear is a relationship is not like it's not supposed to be like an entirely like positive thing. In the grand scheme it is, but like, let's just say from the upfront, imagine a relationship is kind of like a constant boss fight that you step into because you feel like you've leveled up enough for it. It's like this training ground that you'll stand into constantly, just taking these attacks on your masculinity, on your goals to become a better man. if you're not worthy of that, or if that scares you and you want like an easy life, 100% consider being gay, because like I assume you'll have like a way easier life. You've got another guy who's making fucking money and everything. He's not getting emotional and stuff. Sounds awesome, man. Like honestly, like I feel like we're missing out, but we can't, right? So, but if you are like interested in actually dating a woman, understand that's like you, like imagine it's like another version of monk mode, but it's harder because it's like now you have like this person who's throwing these tests at you, who's basically firing these arrows, and you have to know how to deflect them in a loving way, and then make sure she doesn't hurt her fingers on the bow or some shit. Let's go. Next question. So Joab asked, how do you stay masculine/spiritual without it turning into some goofy ass stuff like blowing plants into each other's noses? So I told them of the story of like, yeah, I came to Bali, sacrificed my smart goals, and then I found myself like lying down on the floor of my villa taking like rapé and doing that mushroom ceremony. And the guy was like, oh, by the way, I'm a hugger, bro. And he left by doing that, and it's like I just ruined my perception of spirituality. I was like, my mom's gonna be so disappointed of me. I just lost like 100 Adonis school members coming into this fucking time zone. Spent like 20k on this trip to just go like feel something inside of me.
Bro, that is a very good question. That is something that I've more in the last year and a half really paid a lot of attention to. It's this balance between being grounded in your masculinity, but also like going into the more like feminine spiritual side of things, right? And I'll tell you, very few men get it right the first time. You're usually going to be out of balance. Like if you're trying to go down that one route or the other, the chances are you're going to be out of balance one way or another, right? So I've done the rapé and you know, the mushrooms, like I've done all of that stuff, right? And like what I would say is like any of those things, first of all, again, just go into it with that like open, curious mind, right? There's definitely like, particularly here in Bali, there's a lot of those like those kind of bros, like the feminine bros that you just described. But what I would say is like, just be what is actually truthful to you, because you might be like, whoever asked the question, like you might be one of those guys. You might be like judging it because you actually like want to be one of those guys. And if you do, there's nothing wrong with that, right? Like I live with a like friend of mine who works with me with my agency. He's like 100 kilos, jacked, big black dude. He's sitting right here. He's got headphones on, so you can't hear me. And he's like a much more masculine looking man. If you looked at him and me, you'd be like, that's the more masculine man, right? And I'm okay with that because I know who I am. Like I do have more feminine traits as well. But the key thing is like, I know when to lean more into the masculine side and when to lean into the feminine side, right? So it's like, there's a level of nuance to it to be able to know when to lean into what. So it's not like one or the other, it's both, but just by being able to like stay in balance and choose like, okay, cool. Like my girlfriend's crying. This is a moment where I don't need to like direct and give her advice of how to overcome this. I just need to love her. And I just need to be there for her. And I just need to be present for her. And then maybe after that, maybe then she'll be open to some advice if I have it, right? Or there's times where, like when I was with Maggie, I think we talked about it on the podcast, like we were in Naples in Italy. It's like a shitty, dirty part of Italy. And a homeless guy tries to like basically break into our car. That wasn't a time for me to love the homeless man. That was a time for me to potentially like, he got out a knife on me. So it was like, I had to physically handle that situation while keeping my girlfriend safe, right? She doesn't want the feminine rapé guy then. She wants the fucking masculine guy who trains martial arts to come out, right? And that was who I was being in that moment. So yeah, it's like different times for different things, if that makes sense.
Yeah, it does, man. Yeah, the balance between them is hard because when I think about, let's say, smart goals, making money muscle, and I think about spirituality, in some ways I see them as complete opposites of each other. Like it's hard to give a definition of spirituality, but it's almost like being detached from the material, the real world, and going inwards and feeling either some kind of connection to God or the universe or some connection to your spirit, and you don't need any kind of material for that. Muscles, women, other people, status, money, subscribers. And it's so common in it used to be the red pill really, but it's so common in these spaces that you'd be working really, really hard, or you see someone working really hard, get all the success that he wanted, disappear for a while, and come back as like some spiritual like lunatic, basically. And yeah, I saw this. I would see this all the time. Like anyone study like pickup artists or game or red pill saw this, where these guys would be just red pilled as fuck and then end up, you know, sleeping with hundreds of women, disappear for a while, then come back as like godly man, spiritual, doing weird shit. There was what's his name, Connor Murphy. Anyone remember him on YouTube? Big jacked guy. He basically is like massive bodybuilder. He used to make those videos of like, you know, flexing on Omegle or something, or going out in public and like getting girls or something. Just disappeared for a while, came back with like some weird spiritual mindset, like drinking piss and stuff. It was just strange, man. So strange, man. Like, but obviously those are extreme examples. But I said to the guys recently, like, you definitely want to have a bit of both, but don't sacrifice the smart goals for it unless they're completely inauthentic. So for example, if you're doing something that you hate, you like your parents signed you up to being an actor when you were young and you hate it and stuff, obviously take a step back from that. But if you have, for example, an awesome business that's purposeful, that's helping other people, that's giving you financial freedom, that's giving other people you love financial freedom, probably take a second thought before like destroying it all after you take like a mushroom trip or ayahuasca or something, because there's been so many people who have done that and you don't hear of the failure stories of people who ended up regretting it. Or when I heard of it from people, I used to just think like, fuck me, imagine like your parents relying on you to eventually retire them, and you're here like, you know, singing and dancing in Bali and stuff whilst you like spend their money or your money or something, and you're not working as hard. So you certainly want the balance. It's like, as you're doing it, Bream, you make a fuck ton of money, got a beautiful girlfriend, you got a really good physique and fitness and social life, and you're also spiritual and you're also religious. You can certainly have the balance between them. I don't think any of them should be massively sacrificed for one another. Sweet.
Yeah, well, the one thing I will say is with the whole spiritual and God side of it, right? I was at church. I go to church every Sunday, right? And my pastor said something incredible to me. He was like, going to church is not your time to be spiritual. It's like date night. And what he meant by that is like, that's just the enjoyable time you get to go and like worship God and all of these things, right? It's all things always, right? Like all of those things you just said are happening all like at every moment in every time. Yeah, there's like a phase where you might learn it and go into it a little bit more, but like all of these things build on one another. Like being spiritual and like believing in God directly helps my business, because when I have a hard week, got a client trying to sue me, right? Then going to church and like learning some like deep wisdom from the Bible massively helps me in that situation and helps me to handle it. And I've learned this from a lot of my really high level entrepreneur friends are actually have all of their own beliefs and religions and spiritual practices. They might not talk about it, but a lot of them do. And those are the people who are not just like financially successful, but have that just like genuine like peace and fulfillment. And that's ultimately the thing we all want as men. Like we just want to have that like peace. Ultimately, that's like one of the ultimate things. And so you find it through those means. But I would say if you had to do it in order and you were forced to, and you're just like, all right, I'm just going to look at this like as a step by step, I would say like, get your shit sorted first. You know, like if people are relying on you financially or you're just not in a good financial situation, like get that stuff sorted first, right? Because that stuff, the God stuff can come later. There's always going to be time for that. Sometimes you just got to take care of what needs to be taken care of.
Well said. Thank you so much for your time today, Brahim.
Pleasure, man. Thanks for having me on. It's been good to see all you guys.
You too, brother. Nice one, bro. See you soon.
Peace. Bye.